Okay, welcome everybody. I'd like to start with a quote. So the quote begins, "My background is putting in large systems that change lives. The right kind of systems can bring honesty and efficiency." Quote closed. If that quote doesn't ring a bell for you as to who our maestro for this masterclass is, then I don't know what does. Welcome everyone to the masterclass series of Being Future Ready. And today we will be learning more about how to do projects, transformational projects in government. Wadhwani Institute, Wadhwani Institute of Technology and Policy is excited to host the 5th masterclass in partnership with IIM Bangalore and Karmayogi Bharat. My name is Purabhi Mitra. I'm a director at WITP and I shall be your host for today. With me, we also clearly have our speakers, our guest, Shri Nandan Nilekani, our speaker for the masterclass today. And joining him are Shri Prakash Kumar, CEO for WITP, Professor Shankadeep Banerjee from IIM Bangalore as the head of CSITM, Shri Abhishek Singh, President and CEO for NEGD, MD and CEO for Digital India Corporation, CEO Karmayogi Bharat at Government of India. And before we start this particular session, without taking too much time, this is the agenda that we have. In these masterclass series, you have an opportunity to earn a certificate. If you were to attend 50% of our masterclasses, we do one every month. So watch out for the upcoming masterclasses. And at this point, without taking too much time, I invite Professor Shankadeep to quickly introduce IIM and CSITM. Professor Shankadeep.
Thank you, Purabhi. Good morning, everyone, and I welcome you all on behalf of IIM Bangalore and CSITM, which is a Center for Software and IT Management at IIM Bangalore. It's a center of excellence on the digital technology and management. So that's the external interface that IIM Bangalore has on this area to interface with government and industry. And we started in 1998. And it was actually thanks to Infosys and Mr. Nilekani's company, so that we got seed funded, and we started a long time back, and we are still here. So that's great. And so we have been connecting management researchers globally from top universities, and we have also been working closely with industry, and we have gotten a lot of speakers. Our focus areas have always been around digital technologies, latest, current, contemporary digital technologies. And currently it is focused on AI and digital transformation, product management, and also digital governance and policy, where this masterclass series have come in, and we have partnered, and we are happily partnered with, Wadhwani Foundation, WITP, Karmayogi Bharat for this masterclass series. And on that, we have had wonderful speakers, and today's event is, extra special because we have Mr. Nandan Nilekani today. So, I'm very, eagerly looking forward to this talk. So this particular event has got the highest number of registrations so far in this masterclass series. So, so on behalf of IIM Bangalore and CSITM, I welcome the speaker and the panelists and all the participants. Thank you. Back to you, Purvi.
Thank you, Professor. I now invite Shri Abhishek Singh to introduce Karmayogi Bharat to us. Sir, all over to you.
Thank you, Purabhi, and it's my honor and privilege to be on a panel with somebody like Mr. Nilekani, who has led transformational projects in the government, and there's no one better than him to talk to this as part of our Karmayogi Talk series. As we know, Karmayogi Bharat is the initiative under Mission Karmayogi, where we are building up an LMS platform for building capacities within the government. This is like this was launched with the objective of transforming governance to move from a rule-based governance to a role-based governance. On this platform, so far, we have got more than 400,000 government servants registered. We have almost 400 courses there, almost 800 hours plus of content. And yesterday only, we reached the milestone of 200,000 hours of learning. So it's something which has been built very recently, but it's ramping up very fast. It's built currently on an open source platform. It has got world-class courses. courses are tagged to competencies so that we are able to identify which role in the government requires what competencies, and we are able to assign the right people for the right job. It enables anytime, anywhere learning, because it's something like an edX or a Coursera for the government. It's self-paced, and it also provides, apart from the learning hub, a networking hub, a discussion hub, kind of wherein people can engage with other learners, engage with mentors, ensure that they are able to get more resource materials. And the way it is being built up is that we are getting content from not only government agencies and government departments, also from universities, from private sector companies, from best of the world-class institutions. WITP, which is partnering with us in this episode of Karmayogi Talks, they have also provided us the courses on emerging technologies. We are in touch with IIM Bangalore also, who are again supporting us in this edition of Karmayogi Talks, for providing courses on various subjects which are very, very relevant in the government. Karmayogi Talks, we started in January this year, wherein we get practitioners, we get experts who dwell on a particular subject, who give a talk with regard to how some things have been done in the government, or some things need to be done, or based on their experience from the private sector, based on the experience from anywhere in the world where they've excelled in doing something path-breaking. And then we also engage with our users, with our learners, government servants who have interact with questions. So this is a very interesting initiative, and we thank WITP and IIM Bangalore for supporting in this, and look forward to hearing from Mr. Nilekani with regard to how to build, implement large-scale transformation projects in the government. Thank you, Purvi.
Thank you, sir. That was really nice and elaborate and interesting. I now invite Shri Prakash Kumar, CEO for WITP, to introduce Wadhwani Institute of Technology and Policy at Wadhwani Foundation. Sir, on yours.
Thank you, Purvi. First of all, I would like to welcome Shri Nilekani to this webinar, to this master series. We are fortunate to have him here. This particular initiative was started at the behest of the government by us, which is Wadhwani Foundation, with intent to skill government officials at mid and senior level with business level knowledge of new and emerging technologies. We started in November 21. The classes started, and so far we have conducted 53 training programs in which more than 2,400 government officials have been trained. So training is not the only thing. In fact, that's just meant to reach a goal, which is enabling government officials to convert their ideas into projects using some of these technologies. And that we do by taking use cases in the classroom. And also we are setting up an immersion center very soon in Delhi. The work has started, whereas part of the training program, people will be taken to those centers, that center, to understand how these technologies work, have a look and feel. And apart from that, we also work in the policy area, where our main area of interest is data and data strategy. Plus, we have also worked in some other areas which are getting disrupted by technology, especially on the policy side. So that's the short description of WITP. And thank you very much, Purvi. Returning back to you.
Thank you, sir. So I won't take too much time, and I would like to introduce Shri Nandan Nilekani ji for this masterclass with a very succinct introduction. We are excited to have you as our masterclass speaker for today. And clearly, we are all aware he is the co-founder and chairman of Infosys Technology Limited. He was the founding chairman of the Unique Identification Authority of India, the rank of cabinet minister from 2009 to 2014. Most recently, Shri Nandan has co-founded and is the chairman of EkStep, a not-for-profit effort to create a learner-centric, technology-based platform to introduce basic literacy and numeracy for millions of children. He's a recipient of many noteworthy awards like the Padma Bhushan in 2006, the prestigious Joseph Schumpeter Prize for Innovative Services in Economy, Economic Sciences and Politics, the Economist Social and Economic Innovation Award for his leadership at India's Unique Identification Initiative, Aadhaar, and the Lifetime Achievement Award from EY, to name a few. He's been conferred as Asia's Businessman of the Year in 2003 by Fortune magazine and the Businessman of the Year by Forbes Asia. Times magazine has also listed him as one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2006 and in 2009. CNBC TV 18 conferred him as the India Business Leader Award for outstanding contribution to the Indian economy in 2017. And he's also received the 22nd Nikkei Asia Prize for Economic and Business Innovation in the same year. Mr. Nilekani has also authored multiple books. He's the author of Imagining India, and he's also co-authored books titled Rebooting India, Realizing a Billion Aspirations, as well as The Art of Bitfulness, Keeping Calm in the Digital World, that released in Jan of 2022. He's received his bachelor's from IIT Bombay. Without much further ado, I welcome Shri Nandan Nilekani for this masterclass on doing transformational projects in government. Sir, over to you. So you're mute. Firoz, can we also
Thank you, Purabhi. And it's a great pleasure to be at this masterclass. And I see tremendous collaboration between Wadhwani Foundation and IIM Bangalore and Mission Karmayogi and many other organizations. So I think it's really good to see this collaboration. So today I'll speak about doing a transformational project in government, and I'll use my Aadhaar experience. Just to give you an idea of the scale of Aadhaar, and Abhishek knows this well, we have done, just in the month of January alone, UIDAI has done 200 crore Aadhaar authentications, which means that 200 crore times somebody has used Aadhaar for authentication. Aadhaar coverage now is about 94.65%, and about 29 crore eKYCs. eKYC is an electronic know your customer used to open a bank account or get a mobile connection. And about 1.37 crore people have changed something on their Aadhaar card, whether it's the address or a phone number or whatever. So this is something which has become permeated through the system and has had huge transformational impact. But if you just go back and rewind a few years, July of 2009, there was no Aadhaar. There was none of this was there. So in the space of 13, 14 years, we have seen a lot of transformation. And I think the fact that there is transformation, nobody will argue. But I think the purpose of my talk today is to get you behind the scenes on how this happened and what did we do to make this happen and what were the strategies and discussions and designs we did to make it successful. And I hope to share that with you. So I was invited by the then government to join as a cabinet ranked person in July 2009. And my first order of the day was, how do I make this happen? Because all I had at that time was the cabinet approval for creating a body called the UIDAI and a one-page thing on what it should do, which was to give a unique ID to every resident. So that was my starting point. And I first had to think about what should the strategy be. So I assembled a team of people. So first of all, the team building that I think we did in UIDAI itself was very unique. I brought a combination of fine officers from the government as well as excellent technologies from outside the government. So the first thing is that I created a diverse team of people. I was very lucky that in the government, I was able to get officers like Mr. Ram Sevak Sharma, who was my CEO and who later on went to become Secretary IT and Chairman of TRAI and most recently a CEO of NHA, a very unusual officer who did his master's in IIT Kanpur and another master's from University of California. So he was really a techie at heart in the IAS. And I had other people like Ganga, who was from the Indian Audit and Account Service, who was our CFO. I had a young officer from Karnataka IAS, Shrikar, who was my PS. So on one side, I had many great officers from the Indian bureaucracy. And one of my first principles was that I would take people from every service to create more diversity. So just like I mentioned 2 IAS officers and 1 from the audit and account, I had many from the civil account service, from the defense account service, from the IRS, from the ITS. I had someone like Ashok Pal Singh from the Indian Postal Service. So I deliberately went out of my way to create a team of diverse individuals from diverse services, because I thought that I should have many, many viewpoints in doing the project. So that was just on the government side. On the technology side, I was fortunate to attract very good technologists, Srikant Nadamuni, Pramod Verma, Vivek Raghavan, Jagdish Babu, Shankar Maruvada, and many others who came out of the private sector or the technology sector, who had never worked in government before. So we had both diversity within the government services as well as diversity of government and non-government people. And I created various structures, hiring people through NISG, hiring people coming on sabbatical, people coming on as volunteers, people coming as interns, and so on, all of which to create the proper framework to bring such people together. And it was, of course, my big challenge was how to get the cultural alignment of all the people, because they were from very different backgrounds. And that's why goal setting was very important. And within about 3-4 weeks of my joining the government, we actually came out with our strategy document, which is still valid. It's 14 years back. And the strategy document spelled out exactly what we were going to do and how we were going to do it. And I got it approved by finally had a cabinet committee, but at that time it was just another committee headed by the Prime Minister. I got the strategy approved by this committee, and we publicly said that we would reach 600 million Aadhaars issued by the time the government finished its term in 2014. Now, I was advised by many people in government not to make such tall promises, because you have no control over how to get it done, and therefore you would end up becoming embarrassed. But I felt that on balance, having a target was more important than the possible embarrassment of not meeting a target, because putting the target galvanized the entire team, because they had to make it happen within 5 years. And in fact, we reached 600 million Aadhaars by March of 2014. So we achieved it ahead of time. But fundamentally, setting that bold target acted as a way, as a glue to bring all the team members together, because there was no time to worry about interpersonal issues. We had to worry about getting the job done. So one of my lessons in doing transformational projects is you have to set audacious goals and you need to assemble a diverse set of people from all backgrounds and bring them together. Another important principle I had was transparency. I wanted to make sure that all our actions were visible. So we made sure that everything we did, we put out a document, we put out a strategy paper, we put it on the internet, we put all our policies on the internet. So our goal was create transparency of every kind so that nobody can point any finger at us. Also, because of the fact that I had no government experience, till then I had not done a job in the government. I was very worried about, making mistakes or doing the wrong thing, because government, as many of you know, is impenetrable and opaque, and it's very difficult to navigate. And you can always get tripped up because you don't follow some rule or something. Fortunately, this excellent team of bureaucrats I had a very deep understanding of government procedures, how to apply for EFC to get a budget, what is the procurement approach, how do you make sure that you have put your procurement in a way that you don't violate any CAG, CVI, CVC kind of stuff. So we had all that knowledge in my team, and therefore one of my very strong principles was we do everything by the book and do it properly as per the rules, all the government, the financial regulations. I didn't want tomorrow someone pointing a finger at us. And I must say that everything was done properly, and we never had anybody actually say anything about our operations, and it went off seamlessly. It was also important for us to make sure that we did something which was acceptable to everybody. So there was two kinds of acceptability. One is bureaucratic acceptability, and the second is political acceptability. So on the political side, even as we were rolling out, we set up a team in Bangalore and we had another team in Delhi. And my team told me that it will take 14 months to roll out the first Aadhaar. will take 14 months to build, or 12 to 18 months is what they told me, to build this very complex technology. And therefore, while the team was building the technology and testing it out, I decided to go all over the country. I went to every state and I met every chief minister and chief secretary and bureaucrats and made a presentation on Aadhaar and what is going to come. And that was very useful because I was able to create a nationwide consensus around the Aadhaar project. And I did it not only with states, I did it with central ministries, I did it with all the regulators, I did it with parliamentarians, I did it with the multilateral institutions. So really for 14 months, I was on a evangelical spree talking about what we had done. And I think that 14-month investment, talking to a wide set of actors, created the climate of opinion and made sure that when we actually rolled it out, the project went quite seamlessly. So one thing I've learned is when you want to do large transformation, you have to build a consensus of what is possible so that people are not surprised by what's going on. Another principle I learned was the principle of minimalism, which is don't try to take on too many things at the same time. And therefore, we kept the ID as simple as possible. We only had 4 fields: name, address, date of birth, and sex. We had, obviously, email ID and phone number for those who are willing, and we had the biometric data. Now, this minimalism ensured that we could do this very quickly and that we could do 50 enrollments a day per enrollment station. And that speed was very important because I realized that if you really want momentum in government, you have to have speed and show rapid progress. And that's why we had set the target of 600 million Aadhaars in 5 years. But minimalism of design was important. One is for efficiency so that you reduce the time and the cost of enrollment. But minimalism is also required to ensure that we have the bureaucratic buy-in. Because when we were first announced as an ID platform, many people said, why do you need one more ID platform when you already have a passport or PAN card or voter ID card or whatever? And then we clarified that we were not creating one more application ID, we are creating a foundational ID. So our ID only said Prakash is Prakash, or Abdul is Abdul, or John is John. We didn't get into whether Prakash deserved a passport. That was still the remit of the MEA. Whether he is a taxpayer was the remit of the finance ministry. Whether he was a voter was the remit of the election commission. And once we clarified to all the government departments that we are not creating a new ID, but really a background foundational ID on which they could use it to remove duplicates and so on, everybody was very supportive. So it's very important how you position and how you pitch your product or offering, the transformational thing you're doing, in a way that it does not cause turf issues and reactions from the system, which is a very important criteria. We also did a lot of innovation in terms of enrollment. Normally the policy would have been to buy a lot of enrollment equipment and dish it out, but we said we will do it as an OPEX and not as CAPEX. And we came out with the idea that we will reimburse enrollment agencies at the rate of about 50 rupees per Aadhaar enrolled. And therefore, we went from a CAPEX model to an OPEX model. And we set up an enrollment ecosystem where different enrolling agencies invested in the capital. So they would buy the scanners and fingerprint machines and all that. And we only reimburse them on per Aadhaar. So we made it outcome-based pricing. So the spending of the government was outcome-based rather than input-based, which again was an important shift in the way projects are done. And it can be applied in many other large projects. This also meant that we had a market system on enrollment. We had over 100 enrollment agencies. At peak, we had about 35,000 enrollment stations, each enrolling 50 people a day. So at peak, the system was capable of dealing with 1.5 million new enrollments per day. And therefore, creating that scale and speed, the important thing was incentive alignment of enrolling agencies going from CAPEX to OPEX and creating a market system of enrollment. And the way we ensured quality was all enrolling agencies used a standard software that we provided. So there was no way for anyone to do anything else. They had to use a software platform, and we did all our quality rules through the enrollment software. Similarly, we had a standard list of which scanner to use and which fingerprint machine and so on. So everything was standardized. So the enrolling agencies did not have any scope for deviating from our very high standards. And we had very high telemetry or instrumentation of what is happening at the enrollment station. So remotely, we could study the behavior of 35,000 enrollment stations and make sure that any quality and fraud issues could be caught. And this again is an architectural principle of how do you create speed and scale, at the same time enforce quality. Now, this was at the front end. I also had to make sure that there were multiple enrollment registrars, because I wanted to create a choice for citizens to go and enroll. And so we not only had enrollment through the state governments, we had enrollment through the banks, through insurance companies, through the post office. So creating a multi-registrar model was extremely important to create competition and choice, so that customers, in our case, the residents could access. And that's why the whole system was sort of designed to create a very large footprint of enrollment. And as I said, at peak, we had 35,000 enrollment stations. I think there are many, many other learnings that we had. We had to learn how to, I had to learn how to do budgeting in the government, how to prepare an EFC, how to argue the case in front of the expenditure secretary and so on. And we also had to, I also was very clear that all of us were not going to be there forever. I was not creating a new bureaucracy. So I was clear that, we would have a basic set of people, but by the time we all wrapped up, it was entirely taken over by the system, because the system had to own Aadhaar. And we were very fortunate that over the years, we have had excellent CEOs at Aadhaar. And today, for example, we have Mr. Saurabh Garg, who's leading it with such distinction. So I think we've been able to create an institution, independent institution within the government with proper leadership, proper rules. And then, of course, we had to deal with many other issues. We had to create political consensus. When the government changed, I had to meet the Prime Minister, and he was very gracious and, I think gave full support for Aadhaar. So how do we navigate when you have a large multi-year transformation? How do you make sure that it is, it is carried on even when the political system changes? So that's another important lesson. And also, I had to deal with the court system. Many people went to the Supreme Court and argued that Aadhaar was a violation of privacy. We believed it was not so. We fought the case. And in fact, the Aadhaar case was the second largest case, longest running case in the Supreme Court, I think after the Keshavanand Bharati case. And at some point, the question was asked, do Indians even have a right to privacy? And the Supreme Court set up a nine-judge bench and said that, yes, Indians do have a right to privacy, but that can also be, has to be in the framework of government policy. And after this huge path-breaking judgment, the Aadhaar law was tested against the Supreme Court case, and Aadhaar law was upheld 4-1 in the Supreme Court. So there's a whole other journey that Aadhaar went through, which was how to make sure that it came within the framework of law, privacy, and all that. So anyway, I think there are many, many aspects to this project, and I had the pleasure of leading it for 5 years, and I was very delighted that many of the people after that took it to even greater distinction. In fact, Abhishek Singh was a young officer who was present in my first meeting to discuss Aadhaar with the Ministry of MeitY in 2009. So many of the people who are doing leadership roles today were also there at that point, which also shows how in government continuity comes through different generations of leaders. And so But I think I will stop here. There are many, many nuances to what happened. And it could take a long, long time to talk about it. But I think my message is, yes, you can do transformational projects in government. I think this is proof of that. It is not easy. It takes time. It requires strategic thinking. It requires team building. It requires minimalism in design. It requires incentive compatible design. It requires creating a bipartisan approach. It obviously requires very, very high quality technology. So many parts to it, but it can be done. And I do believe that it can be done over and over again. And when you look at India's challenges, only by doing transformational projects can we move faster to our goals. So with that, I'll stop here and happy to take questions.
I'll now
So
invite.
we have a large number of questions which have come both in the Q&A as well as in the chat. So can I just start with some of the questions?
Sure. Please, why don't you tee up the questions?
Meaning put it in the chat.
No. If somebody can ask the question, then okay. I don't want to go to chat because then I'll be sort of going back and forth. If somebody can go through the questions and curate them and ask me, then I can do it.
That is what I'm doing. That is what I've done, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. So the first question is from Priyadarshini. What do you believe are the biggest challenges facing government in terms of digital transformation and how they can be overcome?
Well, I think digital transformation, as I explained, is a very complex thing because you're dealing with multiple players. You're dealing with many people who don't want it to happen. It's about creating an architecture so many issues. But I think India, fortunately, I think all these things have come together well. Today, we have a whole set of people inside and outside the government who have a common goal, which is how do we create layers and layers of digital transformation. And architecturally, we have designed it in a way that you can keep adding layers. For example, the original Aadhaar only had authentication and KYC and DBT because we linked Aadhaar to the banking system. Subsequently, NPCI came out with UPI, but that was a layer of payments that was above that. Then the RBI came out with the account aggregator framework, which again is another layer of capability above that. Then MAT came out with DigiLocker, which today is run by Abhishek Singh. And that has been a huge success with 150 million people using DigiLocker to store 5 billion documents. So I think because this transformation is a multi-year journey, we have to build layers and layers, but design in a way that each interoperates with the other so that when you stack all this up, it creates very powerful capabilities. So I think, and this is just the Aadhaar side, but for example, Prakash was the founding CEO of GSTN. And today we have the GSTN, which has become a remarkable common tax platform for our GST. Our income tax systems have been completely digitized. Our education systems have been completely transformed with the Diksha platform. Our health stack has been built by NHA. So today, digital transformation has become pervasive in the Indian government and society.
So the second question is from, there are lots of government officials here. Once Narendra Bhushan, who worked with UIDAI as a DDG, currently he's Principal Secretary, IT, Uttar Pradesh. His question is, I'm trying to work on solutions on delivery of public services through online, mostly achieved, real time, 20% in self-service mode, just beginning. My question to you, what in your opinion are next 1 to 2 projects in public service which we should try to do? Those are transformative in nature, similar to Aadhaar.
I think there are many, obviously, when we design in public service, we have to design for universal access. And universal access means some people have smartphones, some people have only feature phones, some people have no phones. And therefore, I think designing for universal access is very important. We will design for both self-service and assisted service because people who are literate and have a smartphone can all do self-service. But if I'm an illiterate villager and I want access to my money, I need to go to a BC and withdraw money, and that's assisted service. So I think some of the transformational things going forward, one is going to be in language. And today, the MAT has the program called Bhashini, which is to create the world's best Indian language multilingual translation capability. for 22 Indian languages. A lot of the work is being done at IIT Madras under the AI for Bharat scheme. And I think if you really want technology to read everybody, they should be able to get it in their own language. And once we have the complete infrastructure of Bhashini, then every government service can be delivered in 22 Indian languages in speech or in text. And we think this is very important. This is not far away. For example, NPCI is implementing voice recognition of payments in any language. So I can give to my feature phone, I can give a payment instruction in Hindi and it will implement the payment instruction. So I think language is going to be a big use case. The other big transformational thing, of course, is going to be using AI. Even the language is based on AI, but using AI to make government services more accessible. So I think language and AI and bringing in much more learning technology in education, all these are big opportunities in India.
Sir, in today's world, we can't be behind. I mean, looking at what excitement has been generated by GPT-4. So the next question is from Nandan Dulal. What kind of innovations are expected in government projects in view of growing adoption of AI technologies like GPT-4?
Actually, in my view, India has been a leader in applying IIT for public projects. I'll give you a few examples. In fact, Prakash knows when he was at GST, there is AI being used at the back end of GST to catch fraud. And one of the reasons of the buoyant tax collection is our compliance has improved. And one of the reasons the compliance has improved is if somebody tries to create, fake credits in invoices and all that, we can easily catch that with AI. So that's one example. Second example is in liveness detection in Aadhaar authentication. Today, across the board, we have liveness detection. So there again, people were earlier using gummy fingers and all that. All that is now being tackled with liveness. Face authentication in Aadhaar is completely using AI. So AI has been quite pervasive. And now the Supreme Court is using the multilingual AI for Bharat technology to create judgments in multiple Indian languages so that if you issue a judgment, immediately it's translated into Hindi, Tamil, Kannada, whatever. So I think, and certainly large language models like ChatGPT are going to be very useful. There's already a project which METI is looking at, which is take all our government schemes, ingest them into a GPT kind of model, use the multilingual AI. So a farmer can sit in his village on his phone, ask questions in Hindi or Tamil, and he will get answers on any subject. So there's a lot of work. I think India will actually, in my view, be a leader in applying AI for public purpose.
Sir, this is a little different question from Mr. S.N. Tripathi. Can I request him to raise hand so that he can ask the question? Now onwards, we can request them and then they can ask questions. So the person who is operating Tech Console, can you enable Mr. S.N. Tripathi, DG of IIPA?
Yes, sir, we are doing it.
And then next we'll have Mr. Vinay Kumar. He's another IS officer who has raised a question.
Can I, sir? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Tripathi.
Nandan sir, I respect you a lot because I was also IT secretary when you visited Orissa, and I have a lot of respect for you. I had a very small question. Did you ever felt like a fish out of water while sitting on National Bank, at least initially? Over to you.
No, it was obviously very difficult. I had spent all my life in the private sector. I had no idea I had some idea how government worked from the outside, but knowing how it worked from outside and inside are two very different things. And that's why I decided to surround myself with top bureaucrats and top technocrats. Because I think they were, I think having the best team is very important. And I was very lucky to get people like Ram Sevak ji and Ganga ji and Srikar and Ashok Pal and many, many others. What is, and in fact, even that was made possible by an IAS officer, my friend KP Krishnan from the Karnataka cadre. When I got this job, I went to KP and said, KP boss, you got to help me find some people to do the project. And he found Ram Sevak and Ganga and Srikar for me. So I think I've always relied on my, network and people I know, and I realized that you can't do something like this alone. You need a fantastic group of people with you. And so it was a very difficult experience for me. And I had to have a very steep learning curve because I was learning on the job and I had to make sure I didn't put my foot wrong. And I did many things. I'll give you a simple thing I did. I went to every state, every week I would take an early morning flight and go to Ranchi or Patna or Guwahati or whatever. And that was very good because I went out, I did a reach out, to outreach to all the states. Similarly, when our chief minister came to Delhi, I never made him come to my office. I always went to the Bhavan. So if I had to meet the chief minister of Bihar, I would go to Bihar Bhavan. Because for him, Bihar Bhavan is a little piece of Bihar in Delhi. And that was my way of signaling that, you're important and I will not make you come to me, I will come to you. So these are all basic human lessons, not with government. But I think all this helped me to create a sort of a consensus in the system. And the other thing I learned in government was I'm not into hierarchy and all that, whereas many people are very hierarchy conscious. So that was actually to my advantage because I would speak to the minister, to the secretary, to the principal secretary, to the joint secretary, to the director, to the deputy director, to the guy at the door who was opening the door for me. So because I talked to everybody, I actually had a much better idea of what is happening than anybody who only talked to his level, So I think in some sense, being an outsider helped me to crack the system a little better.
Can I ask one supplementary?
Yes, go ahead quickly.
Sir, you are a Padam Vibhushan. We will hope that you will get Bharat Ratna also, the real Bharat Ratna, which I feel. Did you ever felt like quitting?
No, there were at least 7 or 8 occasions when I thought the game was up. When the court put a stay on something, or when some NGO went and said this should be stopped, or when some other ministry said, we will take it over, many of those usual stuff. So I would say there were many, many times when I said, the game is over. I won't be able to get through this one. So I had to really navigate that. But I think at the end of the day, I don't think there was any day when I said, I'm going to quit and go back home. I think I said, I got to see this thing through. So that was non-negotiable for me.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Vinay Kumar, and next we'll have Vinayak Sen.
My question is already on your screen. How do you propose to...
Mr. Kumar, please go ahead.
Sir, can you listen to me? Am I
Yes.
audible? Yes, sir.
If you can come closer to the mic.
Sir.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
My question is already on your screen. My question is, how do you propose to make it impenetrable? Because the entire world is facing the data hacking problem. Since Aadhaar is an identity proof where it is acceptable across India, so there is a possibility of its misuse as well. Then how do you make it impenetrable and fully secure? Because there are instances where Aadhaar has been issued to non-Indian people who have been adversarial stand against India.
Okay, remember, right from day one, Aadhaar was an ID for residents. If you go back and look at the original cabinet, Geo, etc. of 2009, it was very clearly for residents, because Aadhaar is not the agency to ascertain anything else except residency. And it is really, the Home Ministry has to look at the issue of citizenship and all that. So the whole thing was for residents, and the idea was that once every resident has an Aadhaar, then you can also, somebody else can figure out whether they should be a citizen or not. So Aadhaar was always a resident's ID, it was not a citizen's ID.
Vinayak Sen, please go ahead. And next we'll have Naveen Srivastava, who is Special Secretary IT, Government of UP.
So you can move to the next question already, sir.
Okay.
Naveen sir's question. Yeah.
Yeah, Naveen, please go ahead.
Good morning, sir. It's Kumar Vinith here. I'm Special Secretary IT Government of UP. Actually, I'm taking the Naveen Shrestha ID because I could not connect. My name is Kumar Vinith. My question is, sir, that when we have Aadhaar linked to every ID,
Naveen, we lost you in between. Can you repeat the question?
Why can't I have just... Sir,
we lost
my
you in
question
between.
is that
Can you repeat the question? Yeah.
Sir, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sir, it's Kumar Vinith here, sir, Special Secretary IT Government of UP. My question is, when my Aadhaar is linked to all my bank accounts and every fintech activity, then why can't we have just one Aadhaar for all the plastic cards that we have, and we can just come down with our carbon footprints also?
That is not a decision that Aadhaar can take, because Aadhaar is only providing the thing. Now, but also there are market forces, right? I mean, if I'm using a RuPay card, that will be one plastic card. If I'm using MasterCard, another plastic card. So I don't know if they can bring it all down to a single card. Wherever possible, we can ensure that Aadhaar is a common thing. For example, KYC. I think one of the things we did was we got PMLA, Ministry of Finance, Department of Revenue, to get Aadhaar KYC as good enough KYC under the PMLA. And then we got all the regulators, RBI, SEBI, PFRDA, IRDA, TRAI, etc., all to accept KYC. So we can do it by going to individual departments and then convincing them to adopt it. It's very difficult to say there should be one plastic card for every application. But the best is to go to no plastic. I mean, today in India, if you look at it, all our payments don't have plastic. In India, in 75, since independence, we have only got 7 million POS machines. But in 3 years of UPI, we have 50 million QR codes where there's no plastic, and I just point my phone at the QR code and make a payment. So in some sense, we should go beyond plastic. And as Abhishek said, I think one of the big successes, and I want to give my congratulations to Abhishek, is DigiLocker. DigiLocker was conceived in 2015 when Ram Sevak Sharma was the IT secretary, and along with Dr. Pramod Verma, the chief architect, they came up with DigiLocker. But DigiLocker today has become a phenomenal success. And it already has 152 million people using it and more than 5 billion records. And I think Abhishek is talking about DigiLocker 2.0, where you can put all the documents, every document. Already you can put your driver's license, your vehicle registration, your Aadhaar, your vaccination certificate. But tomorrow, even loan agreements, etc. And so I think DigiLocker will reduce the need for paper. That will be good for environment. It will reduce the need for plastic. And DigiLocker and UPI really takes care of everything. So I think today, I only travel with my phone. I don't travel with any cards because I pay with UPI. I show my Aadhaar ID at the airport with my phone, and I use DigiYatra to board the plane. So everything is on my phone, and I've reduced plastic in my life.
Thank you, sir. Very interesting question about the team which has been built up. Mr. Vikas Prabhu, please promote him as a panelist. Let him ask the question. Vikas Prabhu.
So, Prakashji, just a quick time check. We are at 10:50, 10 minutes to 11. Depending on Nilekani, sir, we can perhaps extend it by another 5 or 10 minutes, sir, as per your convenience. Thank you.
Well, let's continue for some time.
Sure. Are you able to upgrade him here? Okay, let me read out, sir.
Vikas Prabhuji.
Yeah, Vikas Prabhu. Is he there? Mr. Vikas Prabhu, please go ahead, ask your question to Mr. Nilekani. Please unmute yourself.
So in the meantime, Nilekani ji, let me ask one question which was forwarded by the Dean of IMB, and it is related to what we are talking about, where we are integrating Aadhaar, UPI, and DigiLocker and everything. So it is regarding the role of cybersecurity in these kind of large-scale government projects. So how would you advise government officials go about planning for cybersecurity and be careful about any kind of vulnerabilities that may exist? Because I guess nowadays with great data comes great responsibility. So what would be your advice for that?
No, I think it's a very, very important issue. I think cybersecurity is very important. And as India digitizes more and more, we will have more and more possible vulnerabilities. I think there are many, I mean, it's not the forum, but there are many ways of thinking of secure by design. So designing with security in mind, privacy by design, making sure that information collection by design is limited so that there is, privacy issues and so on. So there are many principles, and by and large, these principles have been used in most of the projects that I have talked to about today. However, there are definitely vulnerabilities in India, and we know now that cyber is a form of, it's a part of global geopolitics. Countries use cyber as a way of attacking other countries, and we have to be extremely, extremely careful.
Mr. Vikas Prabhu.
I think he can't speak.
Okay, so let me read out. As Mr. Nilekani said, he managed to assemble quite a brilliant team, tech experts like Pramod Verma, Sanjay Jain, Vivek Raghavan, who continue to spearhead various India stack initiatives. I wonder if it was just pure luck that such amazing people became part of the team, or was there any special incentivizing strategy that Mr. Nilekani used to pick and choose the best heads for the job? Also, was this work accomplished only with the help of volunteers, or was there also private players, firms, individuals that were involved in Aadhaar journey?
Well, the incentive was a chance to change the country. That was the incentive, not the incentive. So, I think we underestimate how much the power of purpose is. Purpose is also powerful. And whether it was my friends in the bureaucracy like Ram Sevak, or my friends in the private sector like Vivek and Sanjay and Pramod and Shrikant and Jagdish and all that, they all came because they said, here's a chance to make a difference. Here's a chance to contribute to a transformational project. They didn't come for money. They came because it was a chance to make a difference. So I have found that purpose, especially transformational purpose, large, audacious goals, have their own incentive, and it attracts people. And of course, I was very, very lucky to get such a phenomenal team assembled. But it's also because they were attracted by the purpose. They felt that this was a chance for us to change the country. And that's why they all came. And of course, many of them joined. Obviously, on the government side, they were all government employees. On the private side, some of them joined as consultants to the NISG route, the National Institute of Smart Governance, through which we could get technology talent. Some of them came on a sabbatical from their employer. So they were not paid by us. They were paid by the employer, but we made sure they didn't work on anything where there was a conflict. Some of them came as volunteers. Many techies who had made enough money said, I don't need money, I'll come as a volunteer. And then we had a lot of young people come as interns who brought in youth and freshness. So we had many, many ways to assemble people together.
Sir, a related question, what you said earlier. Sir, can you suggest golden rules to ensure the transformation projects we deploy do not attract litigation? This is one of the persons from implementation team, head of SCMP. Yeah.
I told you the Aadhaar case was the second longest running case in the history of the Indian Supreme Court. So believe me, I did attract litigation. So there is no way you can avoid litigation. But I think it's very important to follow the rule book. And I found that if you do things systematically, like procurement, for example, I made sure that all our procurement was by the rule book or the financial, GFR, General Financial Regulations. I made sure that all the financial decisions were by the rule book. So, I was very clear that everything would be done by the rule book, and I would make everything transparent. I didn't want anyone to say that some decision is being made, some fellows are not telling us that. Everything was out of the public domain. So it was just so putting it in the public domain was in some sense my defense against anyone attacking the project. So it can be done. I mean, our procurement, there's not been a single question on a procurement, even though we may have spent lots of money, because we did everything very, very properly.
So this is another question from startup. How to scale up projects on emerging technologies while working with the government, keeping in mind the challenges for a startup. So some startup which is trying to work in the area of governance.
No,
see
no,
how
I think it is, unless the government has a specific policy for encouraging startups, it's often difficult for startups to work with government because the government interaction is very time consuming and you'll spend a lot of time in spinning wheels trying to get something done. Also, often decision making can take time. Then there's this whole L1 business. So then you have to be the cheapest and so on. So I think it's better to look for government projects where there's a stated intention to bring in innovation, maybe through a sandbox method or something, rather than generally trying to sell to government, which may be time consuming.
So this question we received from Mr. Saurabh Garg, Secretary IT Government of AP yesterday. He's not here, I believe. How do state governments leverage the digital platforms in sectors such as health, education, etc., that are in the state list of subjects? How should Government of India incentivize adoption of such platforms such as Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission or Bhashini?
I think today the states have enormous capacity to leverage stuff. Obviously, the India Stack infrastructure any state can use. So if I'm running a state scheme, I can do that on the same infrastructure, which is being done. Andhra Pradesh is a good example of that. I think Bhashini libraries will be used everywhere. I know that Tamil Nadu is launching a major learning program using in Tamil and English for children using some of the Bhashini work. So that any state can use it. It's all open source. It's available with AI for Bharat, etc. The health stack, again, I think all the standards are out there. Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, electronic health records, interoperable service. It's all there. Frankly, I would think that if a state wants today, it can take a leadership role in digital transformation, leveraging all the infrastructure we have created in the last 15 years.
So this is a question about the future of digital governance. What, according to you, is the future of digital governance? What capacities should government build, keeping that digital future in mind?
Well, I think, first of all, I think one is, of course, spreading the awareness of both the power of digital governance as well as the risks of digital governance. And I think we have to do that across the government system. All of us speak at Mussoorie or at the Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Institute of Police in Hyderabad or whatever, or the Shimla Institute for the audit guys. So I think we have to spread the message through all these guys, the Foreign Service and so on. So second is that I think we need to create more mentoring inside the system. I think many of the people who have done these projects have to mentor the younger officers on what is possible. But the good news is that in India, there's a broad collective consensus that this is the way to go. So whether you speak to politicians, businessmen, bureaucrats, intellectuals, by and large, they acknowledge that this is transformational nature. So many countries haven't even reached that point. Many countries are even much, much behind. So we are at a unique spot. And we realize that in the G20, where I'm the co-chair of the Digital Transformation Task Force with my friend Amitabh Kant, and other countries are really not even at where we are. So we already reached a lot and we have to go. I think Abhishek wants to add something, Abhishek?
No, sir. I don't have to add in. Please continue, sir.
Yeah. So I think, as I said, like when I began, I remember the first meeting I had at that time, my friend K. Chandrasekhar was the IT secretary and Abhishek was a very junior officer in that meeting. And today he's sitting there running DIC and Karmayogi and anything they want, they give it to Abhishek. So I think it shows that there's continuity in the system.
This is a question I'm asking you to look back in the time machine. If you could go back in time to the start of Aadhaar with all the new learnings from the last decade, is there anything you would do different?
Well, if I was doing Aadhaar today, I would do it as a real-time enrollment system. I would, because at that time we didn't have the network connectivity and we didn't have the bandwidth, and we had to do offline enrollment, and then all the packets had to be collected and sent to a central data center and processed, and all. It would take weeks. Today, I think we can, I would issue an Aadhaar online, just enroll and you get your Aadhaar. So that's because technology has made it possible. And we would have done face auth much earlier. Aadhaar did face auth only in Saurabh's time in the last, 2-3 years. We've done it much earlier. And I think we would have used tokenization a lot earlier. We did introduce tokenization, but should have been done earlier. But at that time, it was difficult to tell people what is ID, let alone what is a tokenized ID was even more complex. So we stayed away from that.
This question is about DPIs, which are being discussed in this G20 meeting, sir. How does the DPI enable entrepreneurship? How is it different from any other private digital ecosystem? Will the ecosystem surrounding India stack be made keeping in mind the entrepreneurial opportunities as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the whole idea of DPI is not just government. The idea of DPI is to create a set of population scale public rails which have interoperability, competition, innovation, and then allow private companies to innovate. And UPI is a great example of that. UPI is a public infrastructure run by a non-profit company like NPCI. But the actual players on UPI on the bank side are both public and private banks. And on the consumer side, the leaders are PhonePe, Google Pay, and Paytm, who are all private companies, each one trying to compete and do something. So absolutely, the architecture of DPI is to create digital public infrastructure in a techno-legal way and then allow innovation to flourish.
So this is a question from Ankit Sani. So governments has wholeheartedly understood and adapted AI. How do we create a mindshare for other emerging technologies like blockchain and analytics, which can be even more powerful in solving issues at the ground level?
I think AI, in my view, is really the biggest change agent in the digital world today. So I would give it the importance it is getting. I think blockchain has some use cases, but we have not really seen, that many. We are mainly in settlements and stuff like that. So I think AI is analytics. I think is happening. I mean, if you look at what we're doing in GST or income tax, there's a huge amount of analytics being used to figure out how taxes are being paid and so on. So I think there's a lot of, but there could be more, I think, in analytics and big data analysis. And maybe it's worthwhile, maybe having a horizontal group across government that looks only at big data analysis. Okay, I think, Prakash, we may need to wrap up now with a couple of questions.
Okay, sir. So one question is, where to start for such large transformation to work? Is it a political consensus first or bureaucratic alignment first? Where is the starting point for it to get acceptance?
No, I think any change requires political momentum. You can't do change without political momentum. And I think but if you have the political momentum, it is the duty of technologists and bureaucrats to seize the opportunity of that political momentum to put in something transformational. So, for example, when I was in government, I did 7 or 8 reports on different types of digital plans. Like I did a report on financial inclusion. I did a report on how to do large projects. I did a report on road thing. I did a report in 2010, which laid the foundation for FASTag. And for many years, it didn't really go there. But at some point, the political will was there to make FASTag successful. And today, FASTag does 3 billion transactions a year, where everybody is paying on the highways. So I think those of us who want digital transformation have to lay some of these reports and tools in place. And sooner or later, there'll be political will which will want that, and then we can make it happen. And of course, bureaucratic alignment is super important.
Thank you very much, sir. I think we have overshot the time.
I have one question.
Yes, please, Abhishek.
Sir, one question from my side, sir. Mission Karmayogi, sir, we are of course trying to build capacities within the government for all sectors. But given your vast experience, sir, and you had done a report with regard to dealt with HR issues for implementing digital projects. So what do you think, sir, should be done, or what Mission Karmayogi should be doing to ensure that we are able to build capacities within the government for implementation of large-scale digital transformation projects?
No, I think that's a good question, Abhishek. I think we probably now need to package both a course and a series of courses only around digital transformation. And there are these courses don't exist because nobody's done this. So I think we have to leverage the human capital in India across the public and private sector and actually encapsulate the learnings like we are doing in this session, and then have a proper course in Mission Karmayogi, and then also combine that with the training at the institution. So whether it's Masuri, LBS, or whether it's Vallabhbhai Patel Institute in Hyderabad or whatever, we have to combine the online things on the Mission Karmayogi with the classroom in there, and create some hybrid courses and create a track where we are actually verifying and credentialing officers from across the government on digital transformation.
Thank you.
So
Thank you,
just
sir.
to tell you on that, sir, that's what exactly we are doing. We conduct offline classes, classroom basis for mid and senior level people. And also we are creating courses which are hosted on iGot. So it's whether AI for digital transformation, introduction to ET, data-driven decision making, drones, blockchain, so that we are able to give them a business level understanding of what these technologies are with lots of use cases. Sir.
I think it's great because India is the first and possibly and now the only country in the world which is transforming itself through digital transformation. It's using digital transformation to improve economic growth, equity, job creation, learning, etc. Nobody has done it as ambitiously as what we are doing. It's very important we capture that and spread the message.
Purvi.
Great. Thank you so much. First and foremost, I want to profusely thank our speaker, Mr. Nandan Nilekani, sir. I have to say this to you and to all of us present over here. This has been the most raciest of all masterclasses, not to ignore the ones that we've had before, but I think this masterclass session, we've not had a moment of breathing, which is amazing. And then I think completely heightens the excitement of all of us who look forward for this session. So thank you so much for coming and conducting this session for us. This has been so profusely enlightening as well as valuable for all of us. In case there are any specific questions that we still think need answering, perhaps we'll reach out to your EA and perhaps we'll seek some support there. But at the end of the day, I would also like to thank all the people who've joined us today. Thank you for making this so excitable. This session again has surpassed the top masterclass sessions that we've had. So we are excited, we are looking forward, and stay tuned for each month because we have more sessions coming. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.